contact my JD. Put it on the docket anytime. All right?
Very good.
All right, guys. Thank you. No, I gave us that. They give us that
Movement.
first part of November. Friday. Good for you guys? The 10th?
Very good.
State, 10th? 10th?
YNW Mellys was caught being emotional in court after today's update, as the original report was YNW Mellys' attorney Stewart filed a motion to set bond with Judge Murphy on Tuesday afternoon, August 15th. According to Broward County, YNW Mellys, his counsel, and the prosecution appear in front of Judge Murphy again for a status hearing on Friday, August the 18th. Then it would finally be announced today YNW Mellys and counsel will not appear in court today. His bond hearing is now set for September 15th, alongside Judge Murphy presiding. Now, YNW Mellys' bond hearing has now been pushed back for an entire month. However, what does that really mean? We first need to read the official bond paperwork, which goes to read, the defendant Jamel, by and through his undersigned counsel, files this motion to set bond as grounds, therefore states the following: that the defendant Jamel is charged in an indictment with 2 counts of first and a firearm that occurred on or about the 26th day of October 2018. It continues that on February 8th, 2019, the Myanmar Police Department issued an arrest warrant authorizing the arrest of the defendant on the above mentioned charges. Then 5 days later, on February 13th, 2019, the defendant voluntarily surrendered to the authorities at the Broward County Jail, and he has remained in custody since that time. Continuing, the defendant commenced trial on this cause on April 11th, 2023, and this court declared a mistrial on July 22nd, 2023, because the jury could not reach a verdict. The defendant has remained in custody over 4 years, and he has never requested a bond hearing until now. The paperwork would then be ended with the co-defendant that has been charged with the same charges of first as well as additional charges of 2 counts of accessory has been let out of custody on a bond. As in the last section, they are trying to compare YNW Bortland being allowed on bond when he's facing the exact same charges as YNW Mellys alongside 2 additional charges. However, in the paperwork where it goes and says, this court declared a mistrial on July 22nd, 2023 because the jury cannot reach a verdict, the defendant has remained in custody over 4 years and has never requested a bond hearing until now, is where it plays in YNW Mellys' favor in a huge way. As a lawyer would mention, the judge looks at bond hearings differently. When the inmate that is requesting the bond doesn't ask for it every few months and completely just annoys the legal system, it looks better on the inmate. YNW Mellys has never requested a bond until now, and the judge that is making the decision is the same one that granted the mistrial on YNW Mellys.
The juror inquiry form. It indicates that after further discussions, reviewing the evidence and speaking freely amongst the jurors, we are still unable to reach a unanimous decision. So at this time, what I'm going to do is just declare a mistrial, and again, I want to thank you very much for your time, and it's very much appreciated. You're free to go. All right, score now. Thank you, ladies.
As that is Judge Murphy. He knows all of the evidence against YNW Mellys, including the evidence that begins with Sergeant Williams, where he was investigating the Jeep that they were driving in on the night of the crime. As he then revealed to the courtroom, there is no way this could have been a drive-by.
Assignment, which is to determine if this is a drive-by. And my determination was that this is not a drive-by, and it's based upon this picture here, which is a very good picture to describe it. All of these rounds are done. One is done at a stationary position. The at a stationary position when all but one of these rounds are going in. The one round that has some movement in it, which is round site L here. The actually moving in that to create the little bit of a that you see there.
Okay, a lot of information in that answer, so let's break it down a little bit. You mentioned so I'm gonna zoom in on site F.
He took note of every single hole that was inside of the car, and then he used what is known as the stick method to find out how the holes were created, including the direction of where it could have came from and the angle from which car seat that it came from.
Number, you said 17 outside the car. How many rounds were inside of the car?
3.
And can you exclude the for Mr. Williams and Mr. Thomas as coming from outside of the car?
Yes. From the driver's side back seat.
As to the shot that Christopher Thomas, where did that came from?
Driver's side back seat.
Oh. Is it possible for there to have been 2 inside that car?
No.
Why not?
There is no time.
So with Sergeant Williams guaranteeing the crime must have occurred from somebody sitting in the back left seat of the Jeep, the state then called YNW Juvie's mother to the stand. Judge Murphy gave the A-OK to have YNW Juvie's mother come up and speak to the jury, as she had to confirm who was sitting where inside of the Jeep.
Are you related to one of the victims in this case?
Yes, I am.
How so?
I'm his mother,
And who is that?
Christopher Thomas.
Pause it at 2:19:15. Ms. Phillips, did you see who entered into the occupants who entered into that gray Jeep?
Mm-hmm.
And is that a yes?
Yes.
Do you recognize where your son entered that gray Jeep?
Yes.
Which seat, if you can identify for the jury?
He got in the back seat on the right hand side.
Did you recognize the individual that got into the back seat on the left side, the rear driver's side?
Yes.
And who was that individual?
Jamel.
And Jamel, is that the defendant, Jamel Demons?
Yes, ma'am.
So with the jury and Judge Murphy hearing the crime must have happened from inside of the vehicle from somebody sitting in the back left seat, and then YNW Juvie's mother revealing who was sitting there, we would then see YNW Juvie's father reveal he believed that YNW Melly was the guilty one ever since the beginning.
From the day one, I believe that Melly was responsible for my son on October 26th when I first heard the story, because his explanation when I finally talked to him and Cortland on a FaceTime, their response and how they was reacting, they showed no remorse. They didn't act like they was grieving, like they lost a best friend or nothing. They was, in my opinion, they was in the best spirits. They wasn't reacting to, they acted like they didn't have to take a loss at all. That's how I took it. And then when I was talking to them, I still had in the back of my mind that something's not right.
With Judge Murphy hearing this evidence inside of court, it could persuade him a different way of giving YNW Melly his bond. However, Judge Murphy also knows the defenses YNW Melly has on his side, which begins with no firearm even being found inside of this crime, as YNW Melly's reaction in court is a very confident one.
Why not?
So the first thing is I didn't have a firearm, so I can't know which firearm I'm going to use in order to replicate any of my tests. So I can't make tests for this determination because I don't know what firearm was used.
Okay. Do you have a...
However, it is when Judge Murphy would go and meet YNW Melly's 6th grade best friend, which could help YNW Melly get a bond in September, as Adrian Davis would reveal that YNW Melly wasn't even at the crime scene.
Are you 100% sure that Melly got into the red Mitsubishi to go home?
Yes.
Are you 100% sure that this young man learned of his friends at the exact same time you learned of it?
Yes.
And that was at the house?
Yes.
Are you 100% sure that when people were getting on the phone, that this young man was looking for his phone to call people?
Yes.
As Adrian Davis would then even double down his claims of YNW Melly not being there, sharing that YNW Melly was picked up by the YNW members that were driving in the red vehicle at the recording studio. They needed to get YNW Melly as they needed somebody with house keys to allow them into the YNW crib.
Okay, so the only two people you know who had a key to the house was this young man
Yes.
and Cortland Henry.
Yes.
Did you see this young man unlock the door of the house?
Yes.
Who was the last person to get out of the red Mitsubishi to go inside the house?
Trayvon, he was in the cot still asleep.
Did you see where Melly went?
To his room.
And where was his bedroom?
When you first walked in the house, it can't miss it, it's right down the left.
Okay. This is a 1 or 2 story house.
2.
As Adrian Davis would claim that he saw YNW Melly walk to the front door, unlock the door, and then walk straight to his bedroom to go to sleep. Then while sleeping for roughly an hour or 2, members in the YNW house would begin screaming, yelling for everyone to wake up as they just learned what happened to Sack Chaser and Juvie on the news.
Did there come a time in the early morning hours that you were woken up and heard some distressing news?
Yes.
What did you hear?
That second Julie.
When you heard that, did you see Melly in the house?
Yes.
Did you see Melly how he was dressed in the house?
Yes.
What was he wearing?
Shorts and a t-shirt, I think.
As Adrian Davis would then reveal that he saw YNW Melly exit his bedroom wearing a t-shirt and shorts, while learning about the quote drive-by. This does give YNW Melly some sort of alibi. However, the families of Sack Chaser and Juvie believe that Adrian Davis was straight up lying on the stand, posting this to their Facebook. However, things would then go and turn terrible this week. Sources are revealing there's a high chance YNW Bortland will snitch on YNW Melly to save himself. Moments after the YNW Melly mistrial was granted, Bortland would go on to tweet something. The tweet shares, "Mind games don't work on people like me," alongside a handshake emoji. For context, during the entire YNW Melly trial, his lawyers were playing mind games with the jury, hinting towards Bortland being the guilty one the entire time. Now YNW Bortland is subtweeting the mind games phrase, which really makes you wonder what he's thinking. Throughout the entire YNW Melly trial, his lawyers were hinting towards Bortland the entire time. Even the opening statement 15 minutes into day 1, you can hear YNW Melly's lawyer go on and tell the jury that YNW Bortland was the one with powder residue on his hands and not YNW Melly.
Family's lies, those were his lies. Cortland Henry shows up at Memorial Hospital, Miramar. You don't see him sitting there, but where you will see him sitting is in the driver's seat of a car with 2 bodies, a car riddled with bullets. And when he shows up with a change of clothing, change of shirt, powder residue on his hands, evidencing that he had discharged a firearm. And he lies. He lies about where the incident occurred. He lies about how it occurred. And he lies about not having a phone. I think it was Miss Bradley herself who said, everybody has a phone in his pocket, not Cortland Henry. There were 3 phones.
That is YNW Melly's lawyer 15 minutes into day 1 of the YNW Melly trial, revealing that it was always Bortland that was telling the lies to the feds, and that Bortland was the one that had powder residue on his hands, and that he was the one last with Sack Chaser and Juvie. Then we would see the YNW Bortland lying interview where he was caught lying to detectives during the investigation period.
And I'm driving, ducking for my life, trying to make sure I don't get hit. And you telling me, you telling me about shit. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to make sure I don't get hit. I'm driving. I'm trying to make sure I don't get hit. You know what I'm saying? What I'm gonna be worried about? You know what I'm saying?
I know it's not for you to worry about.
Shit crazy, bro.
But if you tell me it happened there's got to be some evidence there. There's going to be broken glass, just like there's broken glass over here from when you guys opened the doors and stuff like that. Okay, there's going to be broken glass over there when the windows got out. There's going to be casings from the people at your car. Okay, there's going to be evidence over there. Okay, right now there's nothing. I kind of think I know what happened because I got information.
However, this wouldn't be the end of YNW Bortland's evidence getting brought up in Mellys' trial either. We would then see a forensic scientist that covered the passings go into further on Bortland having the powder residue on his hands.
So the right hand of Cortland Henry contained 0 particles characteristic of powder residue and two component particles. And the left hand contained 1 particle characteristic of powder residue and 1 2-component particle.
Okay. And can you explain to us what that means?
Basically, overall, there was powder residue present on the hands.
YNW Mellys' team would continue saying things about YNW Bortland throughout the entire trial. Due to this, Bortland might not even have another option but to snitch on YNW Mellys, as they are constantly making Bortland look like the suspicious one, as it's very likely he's gonna want to look out for himself and give immunity by snitching on YNW Mellys. With everything going on, Bortland would then be brought into the courtroom as they needed to give him a trial date now.
Cortland Henry?
Yes, sir, he's present.
That you in the back
Status conference.
Come on up.
And I guess you're already trial code right now. We're set for October 3rd for trial.
You had a motion pending as well?
Yes, Judge. As the court, when we were here the last time, you let him go to church and stuff, you said about working, you would be subject to seeing his schedule. We filed a schedule for the next couple of months.
I saw that.
Be able to work. And I talked to his probation supervisor. She has no problem with him at all. She said that if he's going to go to work, she'd like anybody has to do, provide an itinerary, where he's going to be, how he's going to get there, how it's going to get done.
Ever since YNW Mellys was originally locked up in 2018, it's been the YNW group's main priority to make Mellys look innocent. Even in the new lawsuit against YNW Mellys, it goes and reads, Defendant 100K Track assisted Mellys and Bortland with the collection and disposal of the firearm that was used to commit the crime. And if 100K Track did dispose of the firearm for them, it makes this interview with DJ Academics feel very strange.
He built a real great solid team away from just being innocent because he wouldn't do such a crime. He prepared himself and got a proper, defense. Their job is to handle themselves in trial, not on social media. You guys are taking it that way. If they say they got DNA in a car, I'm just gonna tell you, Mellys DNA was found in the car. You're gonna think, yeah, his DNA was found in the car the day of the. Oh, he jumped in a car and his DNA was in the car, he did it. Okay, but you're not gonna put the fact that this was his car for 6-7 months on those documents and dockets and just automatically be like, yo, he's fried. You don't even know what the defense is. You don't even know what the rebuttal is. You don't even know why that situation occurred. You hear ballistics flying, you don't know what the defense is. You hear this, you hear that. You get what I'm saying?
I'm gonna be honest.